This is the sermon for the 10th Sunday after Pentecost, which is August 2nd. And the text for today, we're going to jump back into Genesis. We were in Genesis earlier in the summer, but this is Genesis 32, starting in verse 22 and going through 31. That night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 maidservants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have overcome." Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon. The word of God for the people of God. This sermon is called Wrestling. My friend Dennis Marlowe, keep him in your prayers, had the funeral for his brother today. But he was the very first high school wrestling coach in Banks County. And when the schedule was complete and the first match was approaching, Dennis went down to the nearby newspaper in Homer, and he wanted the community to know about the wrestling match so that they could come and enjoy this brand new sport. Well, many in the audience that day were expecting something very different than what they got. They were expecting something like what they had seen on television, complete with masked men and buckled enclosed rings. Well, Jacob wasn't so sure what he got either. Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. This is certainly one of the strangest stories in the Bible. Let's start with Jacob, because we have not been in the book of Genesis for the last month or so. So I don't know that you can be Jacob neutral. Either you like the guy or you don't. And I can't really blame you if you don't like him. Jacob's whole life had been a struggle of one kind or another. In chapter 31, Jacob the trickster had been double-crossed by his father-in-law, and now Jacob had gotten the best of him and had fled. Excuse me, let me get something off my screen here. All right. And he had fled. Laban, his father-in-law, finally caught up with him, and they made a covenant to no longer go into each other's territory. So Jacob could no longer go north and do any harm to Laban. Then Jacob finds out that his brother Esau is approaching with 400 men. Jacob fully expects this to be his end. He is expecting his brother will come and seek revenge. You see, they were twins, Jacob and Esau, and Esau was born first. It says they even struggled in the womb, and as Esau came out of his mother's womb, Jacob was grabbing his heel. Well, one of the stories in Genesis is about how Jacob took the birthright from his brother Esau because he was so hungry, and he traded him a bowl of stew for the birthright. And then, with the help of Rebekah, his mother, he tricked his father, Isaac, into giving the blessing that belonged to Esau because he was the firstborn. When Esau discovered the deception, he was furious and planned to kill Jacob. That was the last word between these two individuals until now. With that in mind, Jacob sends a message to his brother, hoping to find favor with him. The servant returns, telling Jacob that his brother is on his way with 400 men. What could you expect? In great distress, Jacob divided his people who were with him into two groups. And he also divided their flocks and herds and camels as well. He thought, if Esau comes and attacks one group, the group that is left may escape. Then Jacob prayed this prayer: O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, you have said to me, go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper. I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. I had only my staff when I crossed this Jordan, but now I have become two camps. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid he will come and attack me, and also the mothers with their children. But you have said, I will surely make you prosper, and will make your descendants like the sands of the sea, which cannot be counted. After praying this, Jacob sends a large number of goats, sheep, and camels out ahead to be presented as a gift for his brother Esau. Then he sends his family and the two groups and all his other belongings across the river. After he'd done all of this, Jacob was finally alone. Except he wasn't. A man wrestled with him, and the man could not overpower Jacob. Then the wrestler took a shot and touched the socket of Jacob's hip, and it was wrenched out of joint. The wrestler doesn't want to be seen in the daylight or reveal his name. Can you imagine Jacob's dismay? Who is this that I'm wrestling? Is it a robber? Is it Esau that may have slipped into camp early to attack me? Without a clue, Jacob fought on. Well, I never wrestled in school. We didn't have a wrestling program. But I did get an opportunity to coach as an assistant coach in the middle school. I can say a little bit that I still retain about wrestling, but I can tell you this from my observation of a lot of middle school wrestlers. I've seen wrestlers go out expecting to lose, and they did. Jacob had struggled his entire life. He was the second child born to a father who had a favorite, and it wasn't him. He had struggled with his father-in-law over a wife. He'd been tricked into working for his father-in-law for 7 years, and then a total of 20 years had been spent working for Laban. His whole life had been struggle with his fellow man. And now he's struggling with God. This struggle, though it may be a physical one, is also more than that. His time alone on the riverbank is a spiritual struggle. His past is fraught with mistakes, and now his future is completely uncertain. but the struggle is worthwhile, and it will result in change. Kim and I do a word each day with our daily devotion. On Monday, our word was audacious, being very bold, daring, or willing to take surprisingly big risk. And that's exactly what Jacob did. He wouldn't let go. He said, I will not let go unless you bless me. It could have turned out differently. Then Jacob's opponent asked, what is your name? And then he changed his name from Jacob to Israel. And this is the meaning of Israel, because you have struggled with God and with man and have overcome. Then Jacob acted boldly again when he asked, please tell me your name. Now, assuming that this opponent is an angel or is actually God, he says, why do you ask my name? And then he blessed him. We all have our struggles, and they come in all forms. Some struggle with their health, with serious health problems, disease. Some struggle with mental health, their emotions, and some struggle with their fellow man, struggle with people. Maybe it's over family situations or politics or religion, or the list may go on and on. And some struggle with just making major decisions about life. Some struggle with finance. We all struggle, and at times that takes us directly to face God. From Jacob to Job and to Jesus in the garden, the Bible is full of the human and divine struggle. Jacob, now Israel, faced God in his struggle, and his life was better for it. All Jacob wanted from this encounter was a blessing. Jacob needed help, and his struggle paid off. Jacob will soon face his brother, and the encounter will no longer be a struggle, but one of redemption and forgiveness. Kathleen O'Connor is the commentator for the Smith and Hewell's commentary on this passage, and this is what she says. These stories of Jacob's struggles tell people of faith how we might begin again after our own losses, wounds, broken hearts, and broken lives. They tell us to cling to God no matter the struggle, for our God is on the side of life, the side of the poor and the broken. There are times in a wrestling match that all you can do is hold on and hope to run out the clock. You might not be able to complete a single move, but all you can do is just hold on. Well, Jacob did just that. He held on until it was almost dawn, and in the new day, he had a new name, Israel, and a new blessing. You know, as I said, the Bible is full of stories of struggle. The New Testament passage for today is Matthew chapter 14, and in that passage, a large number of people pursue Jesus to a remote location along the Sea of Galilee. They want healing. In a way, they want a blessing. They're holding on tight. And in those hours, Jesus realizes that his people need to be fed. And he takes 5 loaves and 2 fish, and he blesses it, and he feeds the multitude. 5,000 men, and we're assuming a large number of women and children as well. And that passage tells us that the struggle continued then and the struggle continues now. Tomorrow in our church, actually Sunday in our church, we will break the bread and drink the fruit of the vine and celebrate the blessing that comes through our relationship of knowing Jesus Christ. And so today, as you go, may you hold on to God through the dark of night of every struggle until God meets you with His grace. Well, next week is my anniversary, and I'm going to be out of town, and so I'm not going to be back for a sermon next week, but I hope to see you soon again here in the mountains. Take care, and God bless.